As you may know, Mongolia, as a landlocked country, has been trying to establish ties with the United States, which is thousands of miles away. It has even proposed a third neighbor policy, trying to find another important international partner besides China and Russia. However, by 2025, Mongolia's attitude seems to have begun to change. Recently, Mongolian Prime Minister Oyun Erdene led a delegation to visit China and signed an important agreement at the closing ceremony of the Asian Winter Games. A cross-border railway, with a total length of only 8 kilometers, has finally landed. It sounds like the length of this railway does not seem to be too long, but you may find it hard to imagine that the negotiation took a full 20 years and 60 rounds of consultations before the agreement was finally reached. What's even more surprising is that although this railway seems insignificant, the economic transportation value behind it is as high as 300 billion US dollars, and it is directly related to the export of 6 billion tons of coal. So, since the economic value of this railway is so huge, why did its negotiations take so long to be finalized? And why did Mongolia, which has always had close relations with the United States, suddenly choose to get closer to China? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Mongolia is located in the heart of Asia, bordering Russia to the north and China to the south. It is a completely landlocked country. As you may know, Mongolia's vast land is rich in mineral resources. According to statistics, Mongolia has more than 80 proven minerals and more than 6,000 mining sites, among which coal reserves are particularly amazing, reaching 160 billion tons. More importantly, Mongolia has long established the development strategy of mining to revitalize the country and actively promoted the export of mineral resources, among which coal plays an important role as the main export mineral. However, despite the geographical proximity of Mongolia to China, it should be able to take advantage of its neighbors. But in the past, the country's coal exports were not outstanding. In 2024, Mongolia's coal exports to China were 84 million tons, while Indonesia, China's largest source of coal imports, exported more than 100 million tons of coal to China in the first half of 2024. In fact, the reason for this situation is mainly because the coal transportation system between China and Mongolia is not perfect enough, which limits the export of Mongolian coal to China. At present, there is only one cross-border railway between Mongolia and China through the Erdene hot port. This railway is not only far away from many coal-producing areas in Mongolia, but also needs to undertake transportation tasks between China and Russia, so it cannot fully meet the export demand for coal. Due to the imperfection of the railway transportation system, most of Mongolia's coal relies on road transportation to China. As a result, the transportation cost is greatly increased, which also indirectly affects the market competitiveness of Mongolian coal. In order to improve this situation, China and Mongolia began to plan a railway dedicated to coal transportation as early as 2003. However, it is worth noting that although the research and planning of the railway has been launched since 2004, and the two countries officially started relevant discussions in 2008, by 2014, China had completed the construction of the railway section in the territory, and the railway construction had extended to the port. However, Mongolia's railway construction has been stagnant due to resistance from domestic opposition, and it loses more than $1 billion a year. This last 8 kilometers of railway has triggered fierce political games in Mongolia. Until 2024, after 20 years and 60 rounds of negotiations, it still has not signed a formal agreement and started construction. The main reason is that some pro-American officials have always insisted on maintaining good diplomatic relations with the United States, and a license for railway construction was once granted, but it was canceled 4 times in a row. But in 2025, Mongolia sent a delegation to visit China to discuss the railway project. So, what happened behind this? In February 2025, Mongolian Prime Minister Oyun visited China and attended the closing ceremony of the Harbin Asian Winter Games. During this visit, Mongolia and China formally signed a cooperation agreement on strengthening the cross-border railway, coal trade, and improving the production capacity of Tavan Tallgoy coal mine at the Gashe-Teginkamauta port. At present, the two sides have reached a preliminary consensus and plan to build 5 new cross-border railways, each with a transportation capacity of 30 million tons, with the ultimate goal of achieving an annual transportation capacity of 150 million tons. According to the information I have learned, the railway is 8 kilometers long, adopts a double-track design with a wide gauge of 1,520 millimeters and a standard gauge of 1,435 millimeters, and includes 5.4 kilometers of supporting bridge facilities. It is planned to start construction in April this year and is expected to be completed and open to traffic in 2026. Most importantly, this is not only the second cross-border railway between China and Mongolia, but also the key to the super coal mine of Tavan Tallgoy coal mine. The Tavan Tallgoy coal mine is located in the southern Gobi of Mongolia, only 200 kilometers from the Chinese border. It is a coal mine with extremely rich reserves, containing coking coal worth more than $300 billion. According to the agreement, the new cross-border railway will be combined with coal purchase and sales and mine capacity improvement projects to ensure that the resources of Mongolia's 6 billion tons of Tavan Tallgoy coal mine can be smoothly exported to China. After the completion of the railway, the transportation capacity is expected to reach 30 to 50 million tons/year, accounting for 55% to 60% of Mongolia's coal exports. By 2030, the total capacity of the China-Mongolia Railway will reach 180 million tons, equivalent to 55 10,000-ton heavy load trains per day. This will not only double Mongolia's coal exports, but also increase the transportation capacity of the China-Europe Express North Line by 40%. So, since the economic value of this railway is so huge, why did it still fail to reach an agreement after 20 years of negotiations, but suddenly ushered in a breakthrough today? In fact, this 8-kilometer railway has gone through a 20-year game, and it was finally finalized under the impetus of economic interests and the pressure of public opinion. In the past 20 years, the way of transporting coal in Mongolia's Tavan Tallgoy coal mine can be described as quite dramatic. Initially, the coal was transported to a place 80 kilometers from the border by Soviet-style broad-gauge trains. Then, the coal was transferred to a transport team consisting of 2,000 heavy trucks per day, and after the bumpy Gobi Desert, it was transported to the Gankamadu port in Inner Mongolia, China, and finally reloaded on Chinese railway trucks and continued to be transported to the inland. Because there is no railway support, the transportation cost of each ton of coal in Mongolia is actually $5 more expensive than transporting it from Australia to China by sea. This has also prompted Mongolia to urgently hope to build more cross-border railways, which can not only improve the transportation capacity of coal, but also significantly reduce transportation costs. According to Mongolia's forecast, the new cross-border railway will reduce the transportation cost of coal to about $8 per ton. Although Mongolia has long planned to build railways, the complex interests involved in this plan have repeatedly opposed the construction of railways. As far as I know, the main resistance to the construction of new cross-border railways comes from the interest groups formed around road transportation in Mongolia. After all, once these railways are built, the road transportation volume between China and Mongolia will inevitably decrease significantly, which undoubtedly affects the interests of road transportation companies and related practitioners. Moreover, the complex political struggles in Mongolia have also allowed these vested interest groups to cooperate with the opposition in the political arena and continue to obstruct the progress of railway construction through parliamentary struggles and inciting civil protests. In addition, Mongolia's long-standing third neighbor strategy has led to the long-term presence of Western NGOs in Mongolia. These Western forces often create disturbances in public opinion, using issues such as environmental protection to hinder railway construction, which actually interferes with the cooperation process between China and Mongolia. But the root of the problem is still the private companies established by the United States and the West in Mongolia, which are behind the scenes. They colluded with the opposition in Mongolia, claiming that this 8-kilometer railway will threaten national security and hyped up the China threat theory, misinterpreting what should have been a convenient cooperation project as China's new era colonization of Mongolia. However, the situation took a turn at some point. In 2023, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken personally signed a $5 billion rare earth big order with Mongolia, which excited Mongolia. But the problem that followed was that Mongolia was caught in a dilemma because China did not allow Mongolia to use its ports. At the same time, the attitude of the United States also changed quietly. With the mining of a large amount of rare earths, huge maintenance costs continued to rise, but rare earths could not be sold. Under such great pressure, the Oyun Erdene government had to start thinking deeply about how to save the treasury, and they also had to re-examine Mongolia's overall development strategy. Of course, this is not the most important reason. According to my understanding, the share of coal imported by the Mongolian government from China in 2024 will surge from 50 million tons to 84 million tons, which is expected to bring Mongolia at least $8.6 billion in revenue, accounting for more than 40% of the annual GDP in 2024. However, the problem is that 75% of coal transportation still relies on inefficient heavy trucks. Whenever road transport is needed, trucks line up in a 20-kilometer-long queue at the port, while the only railway port between China and Mongolia, Erdene, has long been overloaded, with an annual transport volume of only 20 million tons. The Mongolian Ministry of Finance estimates that the loss of coal sales caused by railway transport delays has exceeded $1 billion per year. The Mongolian government also pointed out that if a railway agreement had been reached with China as early as 2004 and coal mines have been developed, Mongolia could have obtained at least an additional $31.5 billion in revenue, equivalent to an additional $10,000 per citizen, which is enough to solve many of the current economic problems. So now Mongolia has also realized that it is obviously not a wise move to confront China blindly. For so many years, Mongolia has been seeking the so-called third neighbor policy and even tried to balance the influence of China and Russia on Mongolia through cooperation with the United States and the West. In fact, this approach is like an unrealistic fantasy. After all, the geographical location determines the direction of Mongolia's development. So, do you think it is the right choice for Mongolia to move closer to China? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.